very fortunate to have with us this evening the same guest we had on part one. This is part two of the Hope Project. The author is Naya D. Terry from Detroit, Michigan, and along with her, my co-host to my left, Miss Tyra Thomas, soon to be Dr. Tyra Thomas. She's the executive director of North Shore Prep, and for here in Lake County. To her left is, of course, Naya D. Terry, special guest, and to her left is Barry Z. Van, also from Minneapolis, Minnesota, but he's spent quite a bit of time in Detroit. And of course, our anchor person is Judith Ray Ross, executive assistant to the CEO and president of the Z-Van Corporation. Yes. So you guys are well known to each other, right? Yes. Well, thank you very much for concentrating here on part two of the project to show you the emphasis that we're placing on the whole project. And Tara, you're from Detroit too, but tell us a little bit about Detroit.
Well, you know, I am from Detroit, and I actually was born on the east side of Detroit. When she mentioned when she went over there, I'm like, oh, you don't want to go over there. And then when my parents, they were both college graduates, but in the early 70s and 60s, African Americans could not get those jobs. My father was an architect, and my mother graduated a degree in business from Tuskegee. But when you went north, the best you could do, my father was a bus driver with an architectural degree from Notre Dame, and my mother was a domestic in Grosse Pointe, as you guys know, with a degree from Tuskegee. But as things got better, they were able to, you know, utilize their degrees, and we moved to Northwest Detroit, which, by the way, is where our guest is from. And Northwest Detroit, probably when we were younger, was like a suburb. It was a very plush area. It really was. And it was integrated. And blacks of means, that's where they lived. They lived in Northwest Detroit. So during that time. So I love Detroit. Unfortunately, Detroit has undergone some very tough times. And they're trying to build themselves back up. They have a new school director, new General Motors is coming back. They have new technologies. CompuWare, I believe, is based now out of Detroit. So Detroit is coming back. And my uncle John Conyers, you know, he's doing everything he can to help things come back. So I'm just proud to be here with all these people from Detroit. Don't we look good?
Oh, yes.
Good-looking people out of Detroit, I might add.
And Miss Terry going to tell us about, what about Detroit now?
Detroit now, like she said, is coming back. Detroit is, there's so much going on, and people are coming together. The racial line is just about disappeared. They're hand in hand. It's beautiful.
So we may have come over here on different ships, but we're in the same boat together now, right?
Amen, amen. Very well put, Dr. Brooks.
Okay, we're going to talk about, this is the second part, Hope 1, 2, and then Hope 3 is in the process. That'll be available at the end of the year. We're going to talk about that. But Barry, I guess, what about Minneapolis, Minnesota? I mean, I was up there once. My wife and I bowled in a tournament, national bowling tournament there in Detroit. And that was a black female there when we were there. I can't think of her name now. You may have,
Was it our mayor?
Yeah, the mayor. Is,
yeah, I can't, honest to goodness, I'm sorry. Senior moment.
Okay.
You're older than I, by only 4
Well, when you
years.
get old like I am, the three things that are away from you, the first thing that goes to memory, I don't remember the other two.
That's right. Touche.
Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Yeah.
She may have been St. Paul, I don't know.
No, she was Minneapolis.
Okay.
Wow. And as I said, senior moment. I'm
And at least we're talking about women tonight. At least there was a woman mayor of Minneapolis.
You were right. You were right. Yeah, I'm 78 now, so I, you know.
Okay.
But well, the Twin Cities actually has become very diversified.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, a statement came out from whatever organization that by the year 2020, non-Caucasians will be in the, or Caucasians will be in the minority.
20.
Yeah, and fine. We have a lot of Somalis who moved there from Somalia. We have the largest Somali population in the United States. The same with the Hmongs from Cambodia, and the largest Hmong population. Twin Cities are really terrific. There's a vibrancy there that I always said it's kind of like a bubble over the cities because it seems like its own little world. And yet, I mean, we're very, very, filled with people and companies that are just gigantic. General Mills is based there, and 3M, and some really excellent corporations.
What do you think the cause of the input there, the people relocating there?
The quality of life, really. They're, as in every big city, and the Twin Cities are now the 12th largest in the United States, but and they've been that for a long time. But it is that people feel they are safer there. We have our problems every day, like any other city, but not quite to the degree that a lot of other big cities have. And something wrong?
No, go. Now I'm trying to get Judith's attention.
Okay.
We always have to do a mic check, even during our shows, to make sure that we're being heard.
Okay. All right. Yes. So anyway, but I've seen the Twin Cities grow. I've lived there now 32 years in the same house, and then prior to that, I went away for 10 years, and I lived there 5 years. So 37 years, almost half my life.
Right.
And it really has mushroomed into, well, so much that has had an impact really on the world. As far as motion pictures, the Coen brothers, Joel and Ethan Coen, are from there.
Do they still live there?
Oh, yes. Yes. Well, they live in New York.
Okay.
But their families are still there.
They are probably the most powerful people in this country.
Yeah. Well, I was in one of their films, A Serious Man. But anyway, and then Bill Pohlad, who has won 2 Academy Awards for 2 films in the past two years, and I can't remember. Do you remember? Oh, 12 Years a Slave, produced by our Minneapolis guy, Bill Pohlad, whose father owned the Minnesota Twins, and now his family does, and also half owner of the Vikings. And then another, Brokeback Mountain. He also produced that, and so he has 2 Oscars on his desk.
Again, I say Naya's in good company. I'm not worried about her film. I can't wait to see it. That project should come to fruition.
Your lips to God's ears.
I hope.
Well, how did you get connected with Naya?
Well, we had a friend I had a friend in Detroit who was wonderful to me. His name was Charles Costa. He just passed away. And as a matter of fact, Naya was at his memorial service this past week. Unfortunately, I was not able to be there. And one of his friends, actually a person who worked for him, called me one day about 6 months ago and said, Barry, there's this brilliant woman who has created this project called The Hope. And she wants to not only expand the sales of the books, but also make a television miniseries, and we know that you're connected enough to possibly do that. And because I had worked for Chuck and gotten him some international publicity with Ronald Reagan, who I had known, and some others. So anyway, that's how we got hooked up, and I said, well, I'll be happy to be your executive producer, and also help people get this more noticed.
So you're the one who made the contact to Dr. Brooks?
Well, actually, through my wonderful executive assistant, Dr. Judith Ross, and I said, well, with Dr. Brooks having such an established program here in Chicago, this will be the springboard, really, to start people noticing this project, and hopefully, Lord willing, getting the miniseries produced.
Well, this is North Chicago, but it's a suburb of Chicago, 40 miles north of the city of Chicago.
Right.
But Lake County here, which we're located in, is approximately 750,000 people. Lake County is one of the wealthiest counties in the state, and probably in the country.
I think it's the wealthiest in the state of Illinois.
And one of the wealthiest in the country. country. Okay, and so through Judith, how did you find out about me? I think you found me too. I cannot go incognito.
I found you when I made a presentation on another project, and you were there. And after
to the city of North
Chicago, and you were there. And I had gone around the rest of the people there and said good night and hi. And he said, "How'd you like to talk about it more?" And I was subsequently on a radio program and the television show, and then on a television show recently when we talked about the Holocaust. So when Barry said to me that, we'd like some appearances for Naya in the Cook Lake area, it was the first person I thought of was Dr. Brooks, who took a look at the material and said, by all means. So that's how it happened.
I was so excited about it. I say it wouldn't do her justice just to have a part one. She drove all the way from Detroit here, and I said, we're going to have a part two. And we got a lot more to talk about you. We talked about the hope. We're going to talk about it some more, but we want to talk about you. You have a fantastic career background. So why don't we get into it now? You started young at the age of 8. I think you mentioned about writing a book. But tell about some of your other accomplishments.
Well, I also taught myself how to sew. I taught myself how to sketch. I used to do portraits.
Okay.
I taught myself just anything I wanted to know. I would sit down and do it until I got it right.
Okay.
And that was as a child. I pulled away from a lot of things just so I could focus on learning new things. And if I wanted to know anything, I was very mischievous, somewhat. I would sneak behind the couches or the doors and just listen to adults' conversations so I could learn more about what's going on here in the world and why people thought and did the things they did. I needed to know. So as I got older, a little bit older, I remembered some of those situations. I knew, don't do that, don't smoke, don't drink, stay away from drugs. I learned those things by listening. So by the time I became homeless, I knew that I did not want to take that journey, just from learning and seeing things that I recognized as a child.
Can you tell us how you became homeless?
Well, yes. My father, he had plans for me after I graduated high school that wasn't morally, sound. I refused. So they threw me out. So when I got into the street, I got 3 houses down. I started praying. And the first thing I prayed for was death, and I prayed that it would come instantly. Then in the same breath, I prayed for life.
What age was that?
17.
So, wow.
So when I prayed for life, at that moment, I put my life in God's hands.
Amen.
I said, I don't know your name. I know you're Jesus' Father. I put my life in your hands. And wherever you want me to go, wherever you want me to do, it's in your hands. I do. So if you want me to live, I live. If you want me to die, I die. But just make it fast, if that's what you want from me. So after I prayed, a car pulls around the corner. It was a friend. He picks me up, takes me to his girlfriend's house because he knew my father and his ways, and gave me $5 to catch the bus to work. Only thing I had on was the clothes on my back, some sandals. It was in the middle of September. Some sandals and a blouse and some shorts. Those are the only clothes I had. So when people found out that through my girlfriend, she called her mom and said, she's homeless. So I went to work that day with my $5, or $4 now because I caught the bus, and brought my lunch, and I didn't know where to go or anything, but I had faith in God that he would direct me because I prayed to him. I felt that I was his child. If he wants me to live, my father will encourage me on where to go. And he did exactly that. I called my girlfriend said, before you leave work, call me. I called her, and she said, Mama got someplace for you to go.
It's amazing. Hebrews, I think 11:1 in the Bible, faith is the substance of things hoped for.
Yes.
And an evidence of things not seen.
Yes.
Amen.
Exactly.
And
And on my way as I was walking after my prayer, I asked myself, where would I go? So I decided to go into the jungle. If I'm going to survive, this is the test to prove that I can survive. And to me, the jungle was the east side of Detroit. Back then, it was really rough with gangs and drug dealers and everything was
So
happening
this was this
over
like
there.
in the 80s?
It was in 70s.
70s, okay.
And I happened to wind up in the jungle. I was over on Jefferson and Connor and Continental.
Oh my
Alger
goodness.
Road.
That's where I was born. Literally on Algonquin between Fruit and Essex. You
Right.
know I'm telling
Yes,
the truth.
yes, yes,
Okay, yeah.
So I would go there, and the lady, before I met the lady, my girlfriend came to my job as I was getting off, and she said, we got to take you to the hospital. We have a place for you to go. The lady wants to meet you. I was so nervous, you know, because I already made up my mind that I was going to eat out garbage cans and I was going to sleep on the bench until I got my first check in the bathrooms downtown. I didn't care. I was just going to do what I had to do. So I went to the hospital, Riverside Hospital, over on Jefferson.
Yes, right on Jefferson.
Yes, and I went up there to her room, and I didn't say a word but hello. I was so scared and so nervous that she might not like me too, you know. And she looked at me, and she said, take her home to my family, to my husband. He's waiting for her, you know. So they took me home, and I was so thankful. I refused to do anything wrong in that lady's house because I was so thankful for her taking me in. I respected her totally. I cooked, I cleaned, I babysit. Whatever she wanted, I would do, till it got to the point where she said, honey, that's enough. You do too much. That's enough. You need to go out and spend time with your friends, people, meet some people. And I said, well, I don't know anybody over here. So she said, but you got to go out. You don't talk on the phone. You don't do nothing. And I said, well, I don't know nobody to talk to.
Is that where do what you got to do comes
Tag,
from?
do what you got to do when you got to do it right. So I decided to go out on a Friday night. I left about 11 o'clock because I got tired of saying, go out, go out. About 11 o'clock that night on a Friday, I went down to the Lamplighters restaurant over there on Jefferson. And
That's a very nice
near
restaurant.
Connor. And, well, then it wasn't because
Okay.
then you can see the pimps and the prostitutes
Oh.
and the police officer. I would go there, to me, it was like watching TV. I would sit in the back with a cup of tea, 2 slices of toast, and some jelly. That's all I had money for.
This is your reality TV.
Yes, watching the streets.
Okay.
Watching the streets, yes. So I watched the streets. I watched everything was going on. I would walk the streets at night till about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning before the sun rose. I was just looking around the area, looking at the dope dealers, the women of the streets, the drug trafficking, the police pulling people over, fires in the neighborhood, gunshots. And I would just stand there, and I would go home and I would pray. And I would say, why am I here? I said, I'm not like any of these people out here on the streets, but I'm stuck here. And I see all these things going on. Why am I here? You know, so I would pray that, ask that all the time. And then one day, some thugs, some gang members came to our house because the people I lived with, my husband was associated with gang members. And I didn't know, you know.
Was that the Young Boys Incorporated then?
I'm not sure what the gang name was.
Okay.
You know, but they were out there. They were over more towards near, what do they call it? The end, the deep end or something on the east side.
Okay.
The north end or something like
North
that.
End.
Right. Yes. And I traveled there. I would walk everywhere from Gratiot to Grand Boulevard to down Warren, Fisher Avenue, Jefferson. I was just Alger Road. I was all over Riverside Drive. And
That's a very nice area.
yeah,
too.
I would just look
Yeah.
at these different scenes, and I would see women on the street being beaten. I would watch the drunks and the winos play on the street and be singing songs, and people playing guitars trying to get. I was just looking at all this stuff, and everything I saw, I would take it home to the Lord and pray. You know, because I didn't understand. You know, I wanted the Lord to teach me more so than anybody else to teach me.
Was that all part of developing book 3? Is that all? Are we going to be able to see through your eyes? Will we be able to see through this book what you saw then?
Book 3, no. That book will be called, it's a little bit of tack in that story, in that book. But my biography would come through Flowers Don't Grow in the Mud. It's more like asking a question. That's the name of that book. And I would give you more in-depth of my journey here to Detroit, 6 years old, things I thought, things I saw, and eventually being evicted out of the house and getting caught up with gang members, dope dealers, the mob. I just knew everybody on the streets being a young girl because a lot of times we would offer to us, because I wasn't an ugly girl.
Oh, I'm sure.
And they were offering me credit cards and just to be with them to show off. There was nothing sexual involved. They just like to show you off like they have some surprise on their side. And basically, I was a prize dater.
Being an ugly girl, you know, we talk about queens and of Africa, but you were a queen. Did you participate in beauty contests?
Yes, I won several beauty contests, several modeling contests. I have 5 trophies out of New York at the International Model and Talent Award, where I did fashion designing, fashion runway modeling, fashion uniqueness. What else? I got so many awards. I forgot what they are. But I didn't really forget. Just there's so many because every time I reached out to do something, I put my best to it, and I tell my children, tell anybody, don't stop because things aren't going well for you. Don't stop because you never know what the Lord has plans for you. Doors are opening for you continuously. You just got to be able to take a deep breath and look and see what's being put in front of you.
You're no stranger to the media too now because you were a producer and you were a camera person and you can identify with the people here, the camera people, and you did it all.
I went to Specs Howard Broadcasting School.
Did you really?
Yes. And my instructor, I think it was Denise Scopes, she saw my video on Baker's Keyboard Lounge.
It's still there.
Yeah, it's still, yeah. And so I went to John Coltrane, asked him, did he want me, can I use his lounge? Will he allow me to come in and shoot a video for my graduation, you know? And he said yes. He said, because I sang jazz.
Oh.
And I traveled around singing jazz. I played percussions, you know.
You are something. I'm sorry. You are very
I have a
special.
daughter play percussion at church, you know.
Yeah, I love my drums. That's the way I relax at night.
Yeah.
I just, whatever I feel I need to learn, I'll go learn it. You know, I will look it up, I will study it, and then I would do it. And that's how I came up with The Hope. I looked it up, I studied, and I started writing.
You are special.
Well, you know, there are many opportunities for black women. I know I've skipped a long ways from 5,000 to 6,000 years ago, but like today, there's many opportunities for black women. What about the entertainment field? You mentioned about entertainment, though.
The entertainment, so far, my personal journey has been difficult but easy.
Okay.
Because I refuse to back down. I refuse to let my lip gloss fool you. In other words, because I can get just as tough as you can. I'll let them know that. I said, now can we do business? So I've been somewhat assertive, and I've gained respect from different people in the business. That my Baker's Keyboard Lounge commercial, out of over 2,000 applicants, came in number 250 from the winner.
Okay.
Which is good. Across, it was a national
It is.
contest. And then I just, from there, I received, like I said, 5 trophies in New York right after that. And I was offered a job at Comcast because of my Baker's Keyboard Lounge commercial, and Ford Motor Company and their video production department. So I just kept going on and on. So one day I felt a little bit, like they weren't really paying attention to me because I felt it was color of my skin. So I went upstairs and I talked to the head guy who offered me the job, and I told him that it's time for me to leave here. So I'm going to hand you my badge, but you keep an eye on me because I'm going to be in the paper soon. I told him that. And I left and I quit the job, and I went more into my video on TAC and producing on the TAC, wrote the music, wrote the songs, and called people together, made costumes for The Hope. I did everything.
You have your own company, Enterprise NDT?
Yeah, Enterprise NDT.
Yeah. How's that going?
It's going slow. Like I said, I've had some challenges. But after this, I believe it's going to be pretty good because I have so much to offer the business. I've been in the business. Well, they say that Ma Rainey is kin to my grandfather. And on my mother's side of the family, my aunt said her uncle married Nancy Wilson.
Oh.
So my grandfather was a salt dancer. And my mother danced on Broadway, and my father sang the blues in nightclubs. So before they would go out, I would sit there as a child, and I would grab a pot and a spoon, and I would beat to what they were singing to, because that was my way of contributing. I want to be a musician, and that's where I mostly got my talent from.
And that's why you're playing drums today.
Exactly.
That is very interesting. I noticed it says you wrote your first book when you were 8 years old.
8 years old.
That is just wonderful.
It was called My Dictionary. And what it was a book on how to convert English to another language. I wanted to create another language. And I would open the book. If my sister said something to me, I would open the book and point to stuff. And I would go like, I don't know what you're talking about, that look. So you have to say this to me, so they got upset. My mother took my book, and that was that.
But it's great that at 8 years old, when that's maybe third grade?
Yes.
And today, we often hear that most of these kids today and throughout the country, African Americans or minorities in high-risk communities, can't communicate or write or read past the third grade education.
Yeah, that's horrible.
It is horrible, but back and then, you surpassed that.
Right, because I was a child, I would say I was unusual for my sisters in them, because I saw things differently than what they were looking at. And I wanted to explore these things. I would catch bugs. They were afraid of bugs. I would climb trees. They wouldn't climb trees. I was out there with marbles in my pocket with the boys. I built things. I wanted to be constructed. I built my own scooter, that kind of stuff.
So you were a tomboy.
I was a tomboy.
Okay.
Yeah, I was a tomboy.
I was too. I was
It's
too.
so much fun being a tomboy. Then pimp.
The Hope you wrote, the part 1, part 2, and I'm going to say 3 would be out the end of the year. You call that an educational journey.
The Hope is an educational journey because it takes you through historical timelines, and it puts you in the era that you can actually, like I wrote in character, you can actually live through the people, hear what they're saying, hear what's going on in their lives, and learn from what they were actually going through, as well as read the historical event that surrounded them. And to me, it helps you become stronger.
So what is the hope for you? It seems like it's different things for all of us.
To me, the hope for me is educating anyone who wants to learn, anyone who wants to see what's going on, what happened, why are we here today, where do we come from, where are we going?
So I know it's about a black woman, but can any woman really relate to this?
Yes, like a lot of my stories come from my grandmother. Like I said, I used to sit and watch women. I would sit on the porch and watch the women walk by with their children and strollers. I would watch them smoke cigarettes, and there was this one lady called Miss Dubes, and she would just scare the mess out of my brother every time she walked down the street. He would run in the house screaming and hollering. And I would sit on the porch and watch Miss Dubes on the lower step and just stare at her. She would have the cigarette hanging out her mouth. She would be out there pulling her skirt up all drunk, and I said, why is she acting like that? I wanted to know why. So as I got older, I started to see a lot of things and a lot of different women that kind of helped mold me to express that these stories need to be told. The struggle needs to be told. So through the struggle, maybe they can have hope. Maybe their children can have hope to get their lives together, and included with the Bible prophecy, to see that these things are already foretold in the story, and to see the actual historical event playing in front of your eyes through the pages of the Hope. Give you some hope.
Through the hope.
Tara, does that give you hope to learn about all of these fabulous women, that you can have hope that you can make it through? There's nothing that you can't do.
Right, and
Yeah.
when you say that, I have my vision as hope, which is through our schools that we're going to bring to the North Shore. And you have your hope, because being retired doesn't stop hope.
No.
I didn't. I flunked retirement. I was retired. I had announced to the world I'm retired, and I stayed retired for maybe 6 weeks when I got another teaching job at our synagogue.
Okay.
And then I met Barry, and within a few months of that meeting, I became Barry's executive assistant. And I also do some political strategizing for Barry's friend Gene Chase and his not-for-profit Traditions and Hope. So retirement, no. Where I do have a luxury, and I think everybody should have this, is I have the luxury of planning my own time. There are things to be done, but I can plan how I will get them done. And that, if you own your own time, then you are free.
But Naya's book, The Hope, along with, you work with the synagogue, and
Yeah.
you work with, I think it's in Skokie where they have the new exhibit. Is it called Hope?
The exhibit.
From the massacre in World War II. I call it a massacre, when 6 million Jews were killed.
That's the Holocaust
The
Museum.
Holocaust. Do
and
you work
it's-
with that?
I've worked with them on occasion, yes.
Okay.
And I was honored enough to be given a shovel at the groundbreaking and to shovel a bit of dirt at the groundbreaking.
I would see a big similarity you guys would have.
Yes.
Oh, there are loads of similarities. In fact, there was one character we were talking about last episode, Esther. Esther was a heroine. I mean, she saved the Jewish population from a genocide. And when the Jews sought to get even with the Spaniards for what they had done, they took to piracy on the Caribbean. And the most hated ship of all was the Queen Esther, and the Queen Esther was was headed by that dreaded pirate Rabbi Palanche. They got even. They got even, but good. But I marvel at the fact that not only did you write the history and write the biblical and see where they met, but you got under the skin of the characters and created a story so that through that all women can look and see what went on. That's a tremendous tremendous achievement.
Thank you, thank you. And like I said, where it comes from, where it stems from, is that as being an inquisitive child, I sit there and I watch people. I would go to the mall and just sit and watch people for hours. Watch how they walk, they talk. I would jot down things. I like her attitude. I like her accent, you know. And let me practice her accent. Let me see if I can be British. Let me see if I can be Spaniard. You know, I would practice these things so I know how to write them in my story.
But you know, for years, Jewish women and African American women have always worked together.
Yes.
They really, really have.
Yes.
And being from Detroit,
Yes.
Northwest Detroit was always Jewish and African American. But as I listened to you guys and you were saying, what you said, this is just so normal for us
Yes.
to do
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
on this project. So I can see how this collaboration came
Our
together.
journey is very similar.
Yes, it really has been.
You know, marketing plays a key role, Barry, in the success of the Hope. So what are some of the key roles you play? For example, the forum, community forum here plays a great part because we're 100,000 Comcast, but it goes out to KNTV in Chicago, Time Warner, in plays twice a week there in Wisconsin. As a matter of fact, online, and I might as well give the audience the online number, drbrooks.tv. If you go on drbrooks.tv in a few days, by the time it airs, it will be online, and people can watch this all over the world.
It's phenomenal.
You know, as far as,
Yeah.
but so media plays a great part in the success of, I guess, not only the Hope, but I guess any book that's.
Well, thanks to you, and the audience should know that things like this don't happen by accident.
Okay.
And the fact that, you know, one of my favorite saying is, when does God laugh the loudest? When he hears our plans. Well, we can plan all we want, but thanks to, and not being solicitous here, but it's true, thanks to people like you who were kind enough, to, and through Dr. Ross, to take an interest and say, yes, I like this. But you can have the best subject in the world sometimes,
Okay.
and nobody, like yourself, will say, okay, yeah, I want people to know about this. And it's a tough thing. Naya's pieces are so excellent, and I'm not just saying this because she's here or because of a relationship, but it genuinely, as we said, I think on the last episode, is iconic, and to have, you know, delved so deeply 6,000 years ago into what has happened, and characters she created that were based on history and biblical prophecy. It's so great, and these days, unfortunately, as I think I said before, so many people who are making decisions in the media are with the soundbite mentality. I mean, it's just got to be instant gratification. Within 10 seconds, tell me exactly what you want. Are you kidding me? Then that, as educators yourselves, you know that this has to change. Everybody goes around like this, including me, but not as much, with iPhones and iPads and tweets and Twitters and whatever, and there's no sense of, I want to pick up a book, an actual book in my hands, and I want to start reading it. I want to listen to a deep story and make it resonate. That's the main thing, resonate in the brains of people who are watching. And it's wonderful to have a project like this to try to pitch and sell and make sure that people know. And the money part is the least part of it. As far as any returns from, Lord willing, we have a mini-series for her. It's the actual satisfaction of knowing that you created something, that Naya created something that can be of benefit to the brain power of the people who will absorb it eventually. And wow, it's we have to have more executives in broadcasting who will listen to this.
You know, the one thing I was listening to Naya when she said about how she would watch how people spoke. Now, in our generation, and from Detroit, I think we speak well. You know, I'm in language arts, that's my undergraduate degree, so I try to be articulate. I'm listening to you. I think in terms of pitching her, she's so articulate. And then when I hear these kids with this eubiotics today, I'm like, where did this come from? Because I know from where we came from, we didn't just learn this to speak this way in school. We spoke well at home. Our parents spoke well. So pitching her should be essential because she is very articulate. She's very attractive. Okay, I'm just trying to heard that ugly comment earlier. And she should be an easy pitch. She presents herself well, she speaks well, and hopefully it'll help our youth to realize how important it is to speak well.
Amen. And I hate the word pitch because it's like I'm pitching a bar of soap or of cereal or something like that.
Okay.
But sadly, at the network level, these are called pitch meetings.
It is.
And
they are.
Okay, we'll live with it. But no, this is more than that. This is a get it through your head meeting. This is extremely important for our culture.
It's something about the hope because when Judith contacted me, she ensured, because I didn't respond right away. I had so many things going on. I could tell you 1,000 different things going on, but I'm happy that you sent me several emails to really get me on the right track. But I may say this to all of you, that this is the first time, I've been doing this for 23 years now, right? The first time that I reacted and did a part 1 and a part 2.
Thank you.
So it must be something.
Wow.
Thank you.
And for Tara to respond, because she hasn't been a co-host for a few weeks. She's been having, trying to get her school going also, right?
My hope.
Hoping right away. She responded and I had a telephone call to Miss Terry, and she sold me then, you know. I'd never met her before, right?
No.
And here, she volunteered to drive down with her brother and her friend,
Yes.
you know, and to be on the program. That's God.
And her brother is a retired fighter. So
See, I didn't know
so
that.
that hope,
Yeah.
again, that kind of strength in your family, you know, that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, because I think with under Emmanuel Stewart,
Oh, I know Emmanuel. Oh, he's deceased now.
right?
Yes.
He worked. I think he boxed under him or something with Tommy Hearns.
Tommy Hearns.
Tommy
Right.
Your brother doesn't look that old.
Yeah,
He doesn't look.
17.
Oh, my God.
started.
Well, you have some good
started there,
genes
yeah.
in your family. That's some genetics there, boy.
Tommy used to be a really good friend of mine too.
Is that
way
right?
Back in the day.
Yeah, Tommy Hearns. He was. I was a little kid, but I know your brother doesn't look like he's old enough to have known Tommy Hearns. But okay.
Oh yeah, they were at Kronk's box.
Is that right?
Wow.
Is Kronk still in Detroit? Speaking of Detroit,
Okay.
is it still there?
I'm not sure.
I should ask your brother.
Is it? Yes.
Okay. Okay, that's wonderful.
So Cobo Hall, that's still the hall there.
Yes. They
in,
just did some renovation. Yes.
Okay, okay. Yeah, so again, you're giving a tribute to black woman, the African American woman, and woman of color. You may tell us again, how did that just take you and take off with it?
Well, as I said, watching women, I felt something special in each one. I would sit there and watch. I knew something was good in them. I knew there was something that they needed to say. When I was an insurance agent for 15 years, I would sit with people and ask them, talk. They would tell me volunteer information, and I was just amazed at some of the stories they would tell me about. And just watching them and things they would do around the house, how they would do, what color robe they would wear, what type of house shoes they had on, what kind of rollers they were in the hair. You know, all those type of things fascinated me about the women. And then once they got dressed up with the fancy hats and everything and got the little strut on, you know, I said, well, yeah, there's more to her than what she's letting on.
Detroit women care about what we wear.
Yes.
We
yes.
are very fashion conscious. I came to Chicago. I'm thinking we could show you guys something in Detroit.
You know, there's, you say, an original fiction, biblical prophecies, and also historical events. So
Yeah, the story is original. The women are original.
Okay.
They're all created, the names. In my spreadsheet, I have over 2,000 names.
Wow.
Names. I hear a name and I go and check my
Yeah.
my Excel, my spreadsheet, and see if the name is in there. And a lot of names I don't use twice because that's her identity.
Yeah.
I'm not going to mix it with another character down the line.
So your folklore, though,
Yes.
it started from the beginning, and you brought it up through 1945.
Well, I go to 2016,
Is that in book 3?
book 3. During the last day, 2 Timothy 3, 1-7.
Can you tell us something about book 3?
Well, I can't because of publishing.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
I
not
was
out
a little
yet. Yeah,
sneak
so
peek.
I really can't say anything. But it's just as juicy as the rest of it.
Okay.
You will want to read it
I already want to read it. I do.
because I take you through from Ain't Nothing Free But Death. During the 30th, I talk about the Green Book and how the blacks used the Green Book to travel through the South to find safe places. I talk about the lynching parties. I talk about civil rights. I talk about the Vietnam War, the Korean War. I talk about all these
In
different...
book 3.
In book 3.
So is the Renaissance, the Renaissance for African American that occurred in New York, Harlem?
It was in New York. It was basically in New York, Harlem, up around there. They started with Langston Hughes and Dizzy Gillespie. Make note of all those at the end of part. I think they're in part 2.
Okay.
Yeah, they're in the part 2. Yeah, they're in part 2, the Harlem Renaissance. Yeah.
Black women played a very strong role in the Renaissance.
Yes, they did. I mean, they really had it hard, especially in the entertainment business because they were women. And then on the home front, where jobs were Well, they're being replaced because even though they were just as qualified, but the color of their skin dequalified them.
Do you address black women in terms of the disparity or the conflict with the skin pigmentation?
Yes, there's a part in there about Margot.
Okay.
Margot and Eugene. Eugene came from the South. And he fell in love with Margot, who was, you know, she was very light-skinned.
Mm-hmm.
And I talk about the creams they use, the bleaching creams and all that in part two, to lighten themselves so that they can get judged, so they can feel better about themselves, and the discrimination of the darker women and the lighter women.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Do you think we still have some of that today?
Yes, we do.
I agree with you.
It's funny that love and feeling kindly to the rest of the world you have to work at, but hate, it seems,
Self-hate.
self-hate.
Absolutely.
And if only, you know, if only I did this or did that, that just continues on. And
Yes.
It's just so much is missing from our educational world when we just have a major part of our history, you know, missing.
Yes.
The beginning of this country, there were Africans. After the Africans came the Indians, and after the Indians came Caucasians, you know. But in the books that we read, you know, it's only Indians, and that's not true, you know. Same as the first president of the United States, we know is taught as George Washington, you know. Well, he's the first one under the ratified, you know, Constitution, you know.
Right.
But the first person who just happened to be black was John Hanson. He was the president of the Articles of Confederation. This was the document that our country, you know, was guided by the first. He was the first person, he just happened to be black. So, and the child mentioned about, like at our high school, North Chicago Community High School, when we had the Navy participate, at one time we had a great, maybe 30%, 40% Navy personnel that were, but now since we don't have that, you see what they brought to the high school. They brought the world to the high school.
Yes.
For the kids to know that there's more to the world than just limited to just North Chicago Community High School.
When I was in grade school in the early 1940s, we were taught, and it was the mentality then, that whatever you were taught in school, that was it. I mean, Columbus was a hero.
Okay.
Don't ask any American Indians about that.
Right.
Can we call them Native Americans so
No.
that we won't get any letters?
No, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I've done 4 documentaries on the American Indian, and the biggest proof that that's what they prefer, well, I was told that by several chiefs, is the Smithsonian's Museum in Washington, D.C. is called the Smithsonian's National Museum of the American Indian, not Native American. Russell Means told me, don't ever call me a Native American. He said that's a U.S. government appellation
So
to
they
be
prefer
politically
Indian.
correct. Politically correct.
Okay.
They prefer to be called American Indians, and the reason is that when Columbus landed on San Salvador, he said, we were greeted by these wonderful people. They were Los Indios, those of God. And Russell Means said, if we're going to be named anything, Indians is just fine with us.
But Columbus thought he was going to India.
Well, he knew that he hadn't reached India.
Okay.
He knew it. He knew it.
Is that
And
true, Judith?
He knew by the first voyage, maybe he reached India. The second voyage, he was beginning to scratch his head. The third voyage of Columbus, he made everybody on his ship swear that where they were
Yes.
getting off was Cathay or India.
Yes.
He died a candidate for the whatever became of Column, and he died knowing that basically the people who were his detractors were right, that he had not reached, he had not gone around the world, and he did not sit down in India and then
Right.
China.
But anyway, the American Indians are very happy with that.
Okay, thank you.
If they're what they would like to, you're welcome. What they would like to be called is Anishinabeg, which means original people, or similar to Aboriginals in Australia.
Anishinaabe.
And so Anishinabeg is their thing. but American Indians are just fine with that.
But they knew they weren't the original people in this country, though, didn't they?
Well,
They knew that the Africans were. It was the Africans all over the world, you know.
right. But the American Indians do feel, in fact, having done one documentary with in Southeast Asia concerning American Indians, a fellow from Korea once said to me, "Look at them." This was at a powwow. I said, "What do you mean, look at them?" He said, "They're us." And the accepted thinking by the American Indians is they went from Southeast Asia across the Bering Straits land bridge
Yes.
and moved south
Yes.
into this continent.
Exactly.
20,000 years ago.
Barry, you sure you did the weather and you didn't do the news?
Oh, yes. I've done both. I've done both. But 20,000 years ago is the...
That's right. Bering Straits.
Well, let's look at these. The woman here now. You said the Hope Project was written to, you say, empower the mind, encourage the heart, and to strengthen the backbone of the warrior.
Yes. There's a warrior in all of us. That's what I mean. There's a warrior in all of us, not just the women.
By the way, may I interject one thing?
Okay.
On Native Americans, Russell told me, and several other Indians told me, he said, anybody born in the Western Hemisphere is a Native American. Central America, North America, South America, if you're born here, you are a Native American. And he said that's also why we want to be isolated from that, because...
When I read her story on the black woman, and as we come up, we'll end it in 1945 and keep us all intrigued about book 3, the Hope 3. But as we come up through that, what was the role of, in your book, of African American women in the 1930s?
In the 1930s, they were peacemakers also within their home. They were trying to keep their homes together. They were giving strength to their kids because they were, fear was everywhere.
Okay.
Because there were so many lynchings going on. It was like lynching parties. They would pass signs out saying, "Oh, there's going to be a lynching tonight. Are you coming?
Oh.
We're going to have apple pie after dinner." They would talk about these things as they left their religious
Like
worship.
an event.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And during that time, the African women, she was being raped constantly. You know, there's nowhere she can go, and the men couldn't do anything but watch or accept it.
So could you address the culture in the 30s and the 40s, maybe, of black family?
Black family, they were basically struggling to survive. Money was low. Pride, their sense of value was low. They felt lost. A lot of them wandered away from home. Some of them never returned because they were either put for prison for vagrancy, for life, or they were lynched. The ones who did come home, they were, they tried to make ends meet, but the women basically carried everything on their backs. They had to do everything. They had to make the money while the men was gone. If the men returned, they feared it. Well, there's a story about Minnie, how her man left out to find work. He's been gone for 20 years. So they don't know what happened to him.
So is this where there's a cliche, I'm sure we've all heard it at this table, black women are so strong.
Yeah, she had to raise 2 boys.
Yeah, so I think women in general can be strong. Yeah. I really do. But you hear that cliche about us that, the black woman is the strong one in the family.
Yes.
How do you feel about that?
I feel the black woman is the strong one in the family because a lot of time, even though the man brings a different type of strength, but that woman has that mind and heart strength. But the man brings that muscular strength to keep things in order, to keep this balance, to bring the jobs, to bring in the food. But the woman, she proportions it out to her family the way it should be, evenly, even with the love of her and her children as well as her man.
And you have 5 children.
Yes, I have 5 children.
Okay, and their ages, so we can give them some credit here?
No, okay. Look at my girlfriend. Their range is between 40 and 28. And like I said, I got pregnant early to stop the abuse in the
We
family.
were talking about the genes in your family and how young your brother looks. Girl, those genes
well,
run
that
deep.
genes, those are my father's genes.
Okay.
And his family, when my father passed away, he looked about 69. I mean, he was very attractive. You know, I used to look at him, see how good he looked. You know, when I was a young girl, I said, my daddy cute. Now I look at my mom, I said, oh, my mom cute. I want to look like my mom, you know. I said, I don't know who I want to look like when I was a little girl, you know. But, you know, we have very strong genes in our family, especially on my father's side. That's where my brother get his from. He looked just like his daddy.
So from 40 to 28, is this because of when your father put you out?
Right, yeah, it was a planned pregnancy in my early teenage years, yes, to stop the abuse.
Amen.
Well, we're near the end, and we just may mention the last days. That's near the end, right?
Exactly.
Armageddon.
Armageddon.
Tell us about that. And people want to look at it, Revelations 21:4.
The tenant God is with mankind. In other words, after Armageddon, they said the world will not be destroyed, but it will be revitalized with a new people, a loving people, a caring people. All the former things have passed away.
Ladies and gentlemen, again, we've been talking about the Hope Project, written by our guest, Naya D. Terry from Detroit, Michigan, who's the author. Co-host, Ms. Tara Thomas, Executive Director of the North Chicago Prep. Barry Zivan, okay, Media Relations Representative for the Hope. And our anchor person, the one responsible for this show, Judith Ray Ross, Executive Director and CEO, and to the President of Zivan Corporation. This has been Community Forum. My name is Dr. Wandell Brooks, Sr., your host.